Okay. Last week, we left ourselves with a challenge and we said, what one thing can you simplify in your service or in your product offering that would make you more consistent? Did anybody do anything they'd like to share? Oh, thank you. I see your color is white, which means fulfilling. Excellent. Did anybody do anything they'd like to share? Because we left with a challenge. What is one thing you could simplify in your service or product offering that would make you more consistent? Anybody who would like to share? You can put on the comment section if you're on TikTok, or you can in the chat section, or raise your hand and speak. All right. So who of us has something to share that they simplified and that made them do it more consistently? Anybody? Today I'd like to hear some voices, not just my own. Anybody willing to speak, or do we just jump ahead? What did you do? One thing that you could say you did to simplify your service. Dorothy, I can see your camera. Come on, please unmute and go ahead.
Yes, so I'm busy with my mini series on design, and so what I've done is I've simplified the process by simplifying it.
Okay, so what have you taken out of the process? What have you added into the process?
So I think my thinking always tries to make it too perfect. And so then I take two.
Oh my, looks like she's dropped off. So Dorothy was telling us, so she's a designer, an interior designer based in South Africa, and she was telling us how she simplified her process. So we will let her log back on and then we shall continue with that conversation. In the meantime, is there anybody else who would like to share? What did you simplify in your process and how has that made your life easier? Anybody else? Okay. All right, all right, all right. I shall leave it at that. We won't pressure ourselves too much. So what we're doing today is talking about small wins and big growth, and we'll jump back to Dorothy once she logs back in. Why is this important? Because we need to understand how small, consistent actions create lasting relationships. We need to understand. Sorry, there's something here that's not working well. Okay. We need to learn how to identify and celebrate the little things that help us build momentum. And then by the end of it, each of us should be able to pick up one thing that they can go and do that will make them be able to track their progress and sustain it over time. What we do not measure does not get done. That's why we're consistently here looking at how we have grown, what we have become, what we're better on. So I've already asked this question. What one thing did you commit to do consistently last week that went well? Or how did it go? Or didn't go well? You tried to be consistent, it didn't work. What is one thing that you could do? And I asked this question earlier, so let's just hop on. So let's start with the power of small wins, all right? A small win is really something that's tiny enough for you to measure on a regular basis if you have your eye on it. However, for many of us, every day feels like a fight. We don't have enough resources, and many times it's I don't have enough time, I don't have good enough teams, I don't have enough customers because their tastes are consistently shifting, or there's this cost that came up that I didn't anticipate. And especially here in Kenya, you find city council have added a cost, county council have added a cost, or government has added a tax. And so it feels like we're always either fighting or firefighting the whole time, right? So that what happens is as business owners, we end up focusing so much on the breakthrough that we don't track the little things that happen every day that keep the lights on, that keep us energized, that enable us to keep on the market, that continue to enable our content to be visible. And it is simple things like every week Audrey comes back. All right. It's simple things like this order went out on time. It's simple things like I went to a supplier and they gave me credit. I didn't have enough to pay for the service and they gave me credit. All right. Small things as small as that. None of my team members got sick this week. We were able to have a full staff all day, every day through the week. We didn't have a bereavement. We didn't have a lost man hours. We were able to accomplish that goal faster than usual. Most of the time, we're so often looking for that big thing that we miss these little things that keep us going, that keep us on track. And that is where we may lose momentum sometimes. But the reality is, these wins are proof that something is working. So, for instance, you put out an ad like we did this morning, and X number of people came to the table. We put up our post. In fact, so we did something different this week. We normally send out our post at about 4 p.m., the reminder for the event. Today we sent it at 9 a.m. And we are actually seeing an impact on numbers. So now we know our audience are used to that 4 p.m. blast that reminds them, Tuesday. All right. So then it means if we're going to add the 9 a.m. blast, because there's a certain audience that wants that one, we need to remember our regular audience, like that 4 o'clock in the afternoon blast. So those are the things we must be looking at. What are the small things that are happening around you? But we are often too busy. We look at the big brands. I think of brands like Safaricom, like Java, like Darling. I'm doing Kenyan brands. We can do KFC also. We can do McDonald's. And we look at how big they are today, and we think I must be that big at the start, but none of them started that big. If you think about Safaricom, when they first came on board, all they did was call. All they had was the voice service. They didn't have the data service. They didn't have the internet service. They didn't have M-Pesa. They didn't have Fuliza. What have they done? They began with one product that they did exceedingly well. And then what did they do after that? They went to other products. Why is that important to remember? It's important to remember that because when we are starting with one product, one little thing, then we're less judgmental of ourselves. All right. When we are starting one product, one thing, we're like, okay, but I should be at 10. But how old are you? I give this example a lot. When we look at economic systems, we look at governance systems, we measure ourselves against countries in the West. But those countries in the West have been at it, the US for 200 years, Europe for thousands of years. Our oldest African country is 72, around about there. So we start telling ourselves, of course, there's Liberia and I believe Ethiopia who were never colonized, okay? So we sit here judging ourselves against a metric that we don't even have, we have not built the systems to support. Yet, if we judged ourselves against every small win we made, for instance, we're at 60 years of independence. Yes, our leadership still needs help, but have we grown a little bit? So we begin to measure the gains. Each win helped them improve a system. Each win helped them build a reputation. So our reputation as Kenyans is foreigners. We have other countries with different reputations, some positive, some negative, but they're all because of small things that happened. Think about the first Kenyan who ran an international marathon and won. All right? Yeah, that's how we got the name. We first won long distance, and now that we're getting into short distance, guys are like, how? But when you think about short distance athletes, you think about the US and Jamaica. Why? Because progressively they won one race, two races, three races, and then they became the big kahunas and they built a reputation. But it is race by race. Okay? The win also strengthens your relationship with your network, your community, your customers. It keeps your team moving because they're like, hey, we won that one. And then they're like, okay, so we can do it again. All right. And then when you know this thing about scripture, line upon line, precept upon precept, when you do the one you need to do, the next thing you do shows up. So let me use Safaricom for this one. They had per minute billing initially. So you'd call, whether you talked 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 60 seconds, you are billed for the minute. But then enough people complained and they went down to per second billing. But it didn't take 1 year, it took a couple of years. And I remember I got a line in those early days that I had to get used to buying scratch card like this and rubbing. Then after a while, they introduced postpaid, which was, in fact, it first of all came postpaid, like really high cost. Then they introduced the scratch card. And then over time, they introduced the postpaid bundles, which is what I joined in about 2007. And then later in about 2018, they began doing other postpaid bundles. What is that they're responding to? They're responding to the market, but they're not responding en masse. And then suddenly data was needed, so we did data, mobile money. Oh my goodness, none of us ever thought we'd be doing mobile money. So what did they do? They kept listening to the market and adding something. So you tried little, you beta tested, which was what we did a lot of times. They would bring a service and beta test it. Like now they're beta testing the merging of the Safaricom app and the M-Pesa app into one mega app. So some of us got onto the beta test in advance now that they've released to the market. So everyone is starting small, celebrating the wins with a small group, and then growing at the top. Those of us who are building smaller businesses, we pressure ourselves so much, we forget that every big brand refined themselves by small daily wins. They just don't come and tell us, we did this daily for X number of months before it made sense to the whole team. So this is bringing us back to the place of catalog your daily wins, because if you're able to consistently deliver the same quality in the same amount of time to the same cluster of clients, you see your client growth, you can go and ask them, how come you grew? And they'll be like, you started being very nice to us, so we stayed. Or when you improved this part of your service delivery, it became seamless and we enjoyed it all the more. So that's the reality. The danger is comparing yourself when you're on step 1 to somebody who's on step 10, 20, 50, 100, 300. And I think I've gone into that quite a bit. The remedy is to understand that we must learn to celebrate progress. Even scripture says, do not despise the days of small beginnings. All right. So if we are faithful in the little things we have, for instance, you have your first client, serve them with grace and diligence, be kind, give them quality, give them value for their money. Don't you think they will refer you to somebody else? Because people buy by referral. They buy from people they know, like, and trust. If they've never heard of you, but they hear of you from somebody who actively knows, like, and trusts you, then that is an instant way to buy. So they'll come and they'll test you. So customer number 1 brings you customer number 2, and then each of them brings you one more. So you go multiplying by the ripple effect. If you do not celebrate and repeat your small wins, you lose step. But if you do, you will eventually match or surpass those who are ahead of you. You could find that we have different telcos in Kenya, and they are liked for different things. But some guys are always able to come to the very top. So that's the stuff you must always be thinking about. You must be processing, where are we going? What are people doing? Who wants to be there? How do we beat them? How do we stay top of mind? Let me give another example. Matatu circles in Kenya. Every route has 5 or 6. I think except our Syokimau route, we have 2. But I'll use our route. We started out at railways because our vehicles were an offshoot of the Mlolongo ones. And then eventually, CountyLink, which goes to South B, decided to come down to Syokimau, and then they were bigger buses. They're 33-seaters. They would leave at from a more central location inside the CBD bus station. And then, so we began as CountyLink 2, and they assumed route number 110, which is also the route that always came this way. Over time, it has evolved into an individual route with a vehicle that leaves every 15 to 20 minutes from bus station throughout the day, every day of the week. and they have certain lowered fares during the day, but standard. Our fares are pretty much standard at 100 bob every day, all the time. What did that get us away from? The erratic nature of depending on other matatus from another route to join ours, because when there were no matatus, we would pay 150, 200. But now we have flat rate. Whether they're stuck in jam, whether there's a lot of traffic, whether there's no one coming, there is a flat rate. Did we all automatically move to bus station? No. Some of us were left in railways for another year and a half. There's still people who go to railways today. But that railways route now has had to significantly focus on one segment of the market. But this other route, slowly but surely, and now we started with older vehicles because this was seconded off a previous route. Now on our route, we have new nganyas with loud music. I don't get on them. Bright lights, loud music, disco in the matatu. There's all that. So you have a choice. And then after the route was established, there was this thing of, why are we staying in traffic so much? So you all know there's an expressway down Mombasa Road. What did they do? They added 30 shillings to the cost price and experimented. So they began with one mat. Garia Expressway, it filled. A second, it filled. A third, it filled. The next day they tried, and the next day they tried. Now it's become a route that even in the morning from this end, it does the same thing. So what are they doing? They're taking little steps, mapping them, right? They're mapping them and seeing which one works, which one doesn't. Now, you have the choice of paying 30 shillings more and get home in 45 minutes, or spend the usual 100 and get home an hour and a half later. There are more and more of us who are looking for the 30 shillings in the morning and 30 in the evening. That's just a really tiny step they made by testing one. If they are growing like that, how much more us who are smaller and need to be connected? So remember this, big growth is built on small victories repeated over time. Why? We've already said that when you do the small victories one, what happens on the other end is that you have proof of concept, you have proof of need, your customers are excited about you, they help tell you what you're growing, and you stabilize. So, big growth is built on small victories, repeated over time. So you make little adjustments and you continue. If you're with me, let me see a YY in the chat and in the comment section. I do not want to leave anybody behind. If we're together, please let me just see a YY in the chat and the comment section. Excellent. Excellent. I can see we are together. Fantastic. So, how small wins build big growth? And this, I think, is not complex, but I think we need to talk about it. So think about a small win as a brick or a building block. When you're building your foundation, thank you, Esther, I see your YY there. When you're building your foundation, you dig all this stuff out, right? And then you now begin to put the demarcations of where your load-bearing walls will be. When you start on the ground, you have one line, but it takes a while because you're laying brick by brick. When you start in the morning, it doesn't look like anything much. But if you have good masons working for you, and each of them is able to build with speed and excellence, they are actually supposed to be able to build 3 or 4 courses a day, depending on the length and the complexity. So think about your business. If you start doing just one thing, delivering to every customer on time, ensuring, let's say you're doing an e-commerce site, the response time between the order and the email is like 1 minute maximum. Clients have a way to reach you if there's a problem. It becomes a win. And it's not just about results, because if it works now, tomorrow it will work. So you consistently go building. What you're doing when you're building like that is you're proving your system. Remember we said small wins help us refine as we go along. So this is reinforcing what we already know is working. And when you give yourself those celebrations or notifications or noticing the small wins, your brain now tells you, oh, it's working. Let us continue. It's like when you start working out, you don't wake up the first day you're working out and do a 45-minute run on the treadmill at 12 kilometers per hour. You don't. Maybe you will walk the first day, you will do a gentle walk on your treadmill for 20 minutes. Then your body will be screaming. So you stop. And then tomorrow you do 20 minutes. And the day after you do 20 minutes. And then the next day you say, okay, let's do 25. And you do 25 for 2 to 3 days. You're like, let's do 30. You don't start walking today and walk 10Ks. You probably walk 1.52 and your body will scream how she's tired, how he's tired. And then you'll do it again and again and again, and it will begin to work. So when your brain knows it's working and it has that little hit of dopamine, then your mind is like, okay, we can continue to do it. So that is how they become big. Because what happens is you're able to see the wins from multiple sides. So let's say a tailor has decided to text every customer the day after delivery to say thank you. Over time, and I was telling you guys how my nail tech has now pegged me in the calendar to remind me to go, right? What does it say to your customer? It says that you're important. It says that you're seen. That text does not necessarily cost more. If you're like us in Kenya, we have a bundle where you get 100 SMSs a week for 20 shillings. So even if you need to speak to your customer, or you'll need to say what point has landed. Even if you need to speak to your customer more than once, it's not too expensive. Bither, we see you. Thank you for coming. So a small win of consistently saying thank you for your customer, it's like it builds trust, all right? And it builds comfort because they know, I'm not just a text. I'm important. I'm valuable. So they prefer reliability to surprises, and customers love appreciation. So we go and appreciate them. On the team side, when we celebrate small wins, we boost morale, and boosted morale reduces burnout. Have you ever worked for a organization that's so toxic that in the morning you're like, I should go to work. If I could, I wouldn't. We've all had those kind of employers. Whereas then you go to a place where you're appreciated as a team, you're still pushed to deliver on your promises, but then you're acknowledged, you're appreciated, you are counting together. That gives you a different energy to go to work every day. So you're able to go further and harder. And for yourself, really, as a business owner, when you see progress, when you are able to catalog the little things that are stable, that are drawing people in, that are consistently growing the business, what you have is you have renewed focus as well as you have faith. You eliminate self-doubt. You have faith that you can believe it. So let's say you had one customer and they said, oh my God, this is amazing. And then they refer somebody to you. That lets you know that what you're doing not only is valuable, it is worth continuing to do. So those things we must be looking at. Small wins become big when we are able to catalog and accumulate them. All right. Thank you, Celestine. I see you. So a practical framework for cultivating small wins is deliver value. What have you promised? Deliver it even in small doses. My passion and my determination is that whenever anybody comes into our space, whether you're 1 or you're 300, we will teach with the same level of excitement, with the same level of quality and finesse. We will not make you feel like you have to be many to be in this space. Why? Because we have determined to change the continent one person at a time. One person at a time. All right. So deliver value. What have you promised to deliver? Deliver it, even in small doses. Okay. Second thing you must do is document wins. And we'll talk in a bit how you document. If somebody comes and says, oh, like I had one of those conversations, oh my goodness, it warmed my heart. Two actually this week. and the week is only at Tuesday. So I had one conversation with a friend of mine who runs a business also, was having some challenges, and she said, I need a sounding board. So we sat down. Yeah, so we know your workplace, Sele. I love the way you are able to just keep gliding through all the creativity you must come up with. One day I'll tell you Celestine's story. Anyway, so I had a customer come and say to me, I need us to discuss and talk this through. And we went and we broke it down. All right. And for me, it was normal. We're having a conversation of what is going on, why are you struggling? And of course, I do strategy for a living. I think through things for a living. So it was normal. I just asked her a series of questions that I would ask any of my mentees. And she's like, my goodness, why didn't I come to you earlier? This project wouldn't have happened this way. On the other side, I'm part of a mentorship program, and we've been pushing our mentees to understand their financials. And when one of them came back and said, now I'm using the same thought pattern for my personal finances, I'm like, slam dunk, we're done. We've done a good job. So what have I done? I have screenshotted those comments. I have put them somewhere. I have shared them with Joe so that if I can't find them, Joe knows where they are. Why is that important? It's important because the day when things are tight and tough, I have somewhere to go to. I have somewhere to go to. So let me use as an example. Celestine is a friend of mine and she's a Sunday school teacher. She prepares lessons 365 days of the year. Every Sunday, 52 of them. There is a lesson, there is a scripture, there is an artwork that you can color. And imagine you're trying to get parents to contribute to these things. All right? Every Sunday without fail. And she's not doing for one class, she's doing for multiple classes. The theme is the same, and I've watched her translate one theme into useful for age 3 to 5, 6 to like that. I'm like, yo, one brain. How has she done it? Over the years, she's tracked what draws the children in, and over the years, she's tracked how to keep the parents engaged. Now, if you have disengaged parents, she's a good person to go and talk to. Why? Because she's understood the thing we need to do. She's understood how to double down and repeat what's working instead of chasing new things and new talents all the time. But she's also very skilled at adapting. So this is working, but this part of it is not working. Let's resolve that part. And that's your practical framework. Deliver value. When the kids come to Sunday school, let them know that they're going to have an amazing time, which also means train the teachers. So whereas she's not a business owner, she's a team leader of many. All right. So even yourself, how can you apply this? You may not run a business. You may be employed and you have people working with you. Or you may be part of a Toastmasters club. You may be part of Rotary. You may be a minister in your church. You may be serving as a lay worker in your church. These are the skills you use. A lot of people say, but you're teaching MSMEs. Teaching a Sunday school class is like running a micro business. I think it's even more difficult. I think it is because me as the business owner, I get payment for my work. The payment for us who are ministers comes 15 years down the line. When we see them, Celestine has worked with them. She's passed them to me as the teens minister. We have sent them to university and we see them serve in the youth ministry. So our reward is 15 years later. I remember one of my friends who's a chaplain in a university said, don't stop what you're doing because they come and tell us, my Sunday school teacher, my teens class teacher. So we keep continuing building. So you do the framework and you don't have to be complex. I keep telling you guys, I run my life from a notebook and a Google spreadsheet. All right. So the question is, if you look back at your last 30 days, so I could look at the 30 days in the 2 ministries I run, in our business, in my social circles, whichever, I'll pick one. What repeated actions have quietly helped you grow? What repeated actions have quietly helped you grow? I'll share mine. I have learned to delegate effectively. So in the last 30 days, what have I done? I've done the schedule for the teens ministry for the rest of the year. And I've gone to my colleagues and I've asked who wants to teach. So October, I'm not teaching. I sit and participate. It is nice to be on break. I lead 2 fellowships. The other fellowship, I'm getting support for this Sunday. So the one thing I've quietly done is to structure. And my goodness, that peace of mind I have. Yeah. So think about it. And if you want to share it, you can drop it in the chat or the comment section. What is one thing that you can see that you've done simply in the last 30 days that has quietly helped your ministry, your work, even your family? Ladies, one way to be effective is to delegate and automate your house. So automating your house includes getting somebody to do laundry. My house, that's a non-negotiable. That's a non-negotiable for me. So how have I automated? I have somebody who does the laundry. We have somebody who does the cleaning. I cook dinner. Now, I like good food, and yeah, so I cook dinner. So whatever you guys find during the day, jipangeni nayo, but dinner is on me. So once we're done here, I'm going to go and do dinner. Why? It's just who I am and how I like it to be. So what is one action that you have taken that has quietly helped you? I can see you empower your team. Yes, Celeste. Believe in your team, encourage them, delegate, delegate, delegate completely. You know it works. Eh? Excellent. Small wins. Why is delegation a small win? It's a small win because it means you have thought through one thing you can pass on. I have upskilled the person who comes to help me twice a week. Excellent. And I figure that takes a headache off your desk. Once we are able to track the small, remember, small repeated over time becomes big. So if you're a student, what study patterns are you putting in? If you're a team leader, how are you empowering your teams? Delegate and be okay with other ways of doing things. It is not your way or the highway, right? Make people accountable for what I delegate to them. Excellent. So then they know that if this thing goes south, it's on me. If it goes north, I get the praise. And let's ensure that the result is both ways. Many of us are very good at when it goes south, we are there. When it goes north, we do not come back and give thanks and praise and compliment to the person who has improved the system. I remember talking to one of my friends who's a business leader, and when he left the company he had built and run for more than 10 years, they made more money in the first year than in all the years he had been at the helm. Yeah, they made more money in the first year without him than they had done when he was there. The difference is when he was there, he was building systems. When he left it to them, they were managing the system he built. So he could say, oh my God, I was so bad for my business. Or he could say, there were elements I was not doing well. But at the end of the day, they managed the system and expanded it. So delegation can be very interesting. All right. So how do we track and celebrate wins? You see, I said it when we're starting, what you track, you can grow. What you celebrate, you can sustain. So tracking is important. And so many of us are living in that lane of we must do, we must do, we must do, we must do. You're just running. If you don't track your progress, it remains invisible and motivation fails because you feel like you're not accomplishing anything. I I put up a post this week, no, last week on LinkedIn. We were finally able to track our growth and we were stumped. We were shocked at the kind of impact we've had. And that impact has made me more deliberate because I'm like, if we've got here with just 2 of us full time and a team of 3 part time, how can we expand it such that we have we're able to have more people at the table supporting the work? Because as we go, the work is expanding, right? But if we were not tracking it by the number of webinars we've done, the number of coaching sessions we've done, we would not be able to celebrate those wins. So the title there should be different. This should be, why should we track? Why should we track? We track to avoid burnout. Yes, we track to avoid burnout. We track to solidify our systems. And this is just a recap from last week. We track because we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We track because we're pushing to get past perfection paralysis. And we track because we must overcome the fear of being too small. Remember, all the big guys started small. They started somewhere. So if we are looking at these things and we're not looking at our numbers, then we can run so hard, not celebrate ourselves, always feel like we're behind and burn out. And that is facilitated by the absence of systems. If we're not delegating, which we've just discussed, then you as the business owner are running all the time, all the time, all the time. You as the team leader, uko hapo, 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 there's no off time. You're just there, there, there. So then you tell your parents, let's say you're a Sunday school teacher, we shall take them here, we shall do this, we shall do that. But if you're doing everything, you will implode. You will absolutely implode and it will not work for you. Okay, so we want to do it a few ways. These are the ways that we track. So the customer wins journal. Get up, even if it is the middle of your sales book, get a page and just write what are the small moments that prove that you're moving forward. Remember we said we are tracking the small things, right? So what are the small things you can see? Maybe you like the testimonials or the messages. Thank you. It was so on time. I really needed that. Like the way Audrey here has said, the point has landed. Things like that. So those are happy client messages, all right? Returning customers. So we sold to 15 customers, 10 came back and bought again. Keep those numbers, all right? If you have reviews and shout outs, sometimes somebody makes a mention of you in a post. Track that. If you must save the link, grab it and save it somewhere. If it's a nice picture, nice caption, save it. If you get, like some people get featured in the newspaper, you grab that one, you keep it with you. Small revenue jump. So let's say we're selling 10 pieces and making 1,000 shillings. Now we're selling 15 pieces and making 1,500. Mark the day you saw that jump. What are the milestones you've accomplished? What are the milestones you've reached? Many times we say that we want to do 20% growth in our sales. So the day you get 20% growth, mark it. Don't stay there. Push your target to go up and to go higher. Look at your processes, small things. Are your deliveries smooth? Is your starting time consistent? Are your client entries and exits the same? When you speak with your customers, are they, happy? Are they, are they giving you insight of things you can improve? So you're consistently having those conversations. What you're doing is you're collecting data, and data is king, which will allow you to review at the end of every week, at the end of every month, and then you pick one to celebrate. Remember, we are celebrating small wins that are growing to big wins, or we are identifying them, then we must celebrate them. How does that help? Remember, we said cataloging small wins improves motivation, both for you as the business leader and your teams. The other thing we like to do, and I believe I mentioned it in a different way last week, is the weekly win habit. So we had the weekly check-in last week. We just means we every week select a milestone and we celebrate it. And you make this acknowledgement part of your weekly rhythm. So there's a place I used to work where we did lunch and learn on Fridays. What did that mean? Every Friday, everybody was bought a drink of their choice, and we sat and we discussed the topic of choice, or we learned something new. What we did after the learning session is we cataloged what went well this week, what moved us forward, what stopped us, what are we thankful for, what do we need to stop doing, start doing, and do more of. We did that as a team every week. And what happened is we were consistently moving forward. And that was Friday afternoon. So you leave your Friday on a high, keenly aware of the things you have to put together before the Monday check-in meeting and week planning meeting. And in each of those meetings, everybody sat down and talked about what they were targeting to do. And then we reviewed it at the end of the week. You see, these things, what they do, that meal, learning, laughter at the end of the week allowed us to celebrate together, which kept us cohesive. It also allowed people to share where they were succeeding, where they were struggling. And then those of us who were I was in mid-level management, were able to listen and hear which departments to support. So the weekly win habit, once you make it part of your weekly rhythm, you find that you're able to really keep your teams motivated. And then we had, when you brought in a client, you got 10% of, I think it was 10% of, we take out some cost and then you get 10% of whatever is left of part of the profit. And that we don't wait for the client to pay. When the first payment comes in, let's say I brought in a job of 100,000, I have my 10K that I will get, and it comes with my next salary. Hey, see, those of us who could bring in work brought in work. And I'm telling you, those bonuses made a difference. So every week we check in who brought in work, what is the work, da, 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 da. And these check-ins completely shifted how the business works. All right. The other thing you can do is have a digital wins dashboard. It's online. I saw a company that did this. They have some very intricate Excel sheet. So everybody has their own sheet that they're manning, which comes and totals on a common tally sheet, and everybody can see whether they are their targets or not. And there's such competition among the team, good competition, and they're moving. So can we borrow that idea and turn progress into something visible and inspiring? So maybe a whiteboard, you could do a whiteboard. There are softwares like Miro that allow you to do whiteboards, or you can do, even if it's just Excel spreadsheets, you go in and you say, what are the wins for the day that everybody has line of sight of? I would do Google Sheets because we all work on Google Drive. Or maybe it's a celebration. So you have if you have got an in-house designer, they design something for you, or you have a thread on WhatsApp where you come and you say, this is what we've done well this week, and you celebrate that. The point is, wherever it is you put, whether it's in a notebook, whether it is on an Excel spreadsheet, you track simple things like who are the 5 repeat customers of the week, um, how many orders did you deliver, what is our target, what's the feedback on the deliveries, and when did we receive our first referral from a happy client. So things like that is like, how many referrals did we get? And if there are none, then the question is, how come? If there are many, then the question is, okay, what's working? The point is to have a visible place where we can catalog all these small things. And then all these things have been internal. Those 3 were internal. So externally, what you can do is do a public celebration post. You can say things like, for those of you on LinkedIn, I know you've seen it when guys get to 3K followers, to 5K followers, 10K. Kwanzaa, when they get to 100K, if you pay for certain apps or use certain apps, like I know when I got to my 200th design on Canva, there was this beautiful poster that came up and I was able to put on my socials. So what is it that you can do? We've completed our 100th delivery. We have done our first export order. We appreciate the feedback you give us. We have now grown to 5 branches, those kind of things, those outward facing celebrations. Why are those important? Because it lets your community also know you are growing, right? So the one we put out last week, we have had 950 people through all our webinars. We've done 50 webinars and 25 master classes or something like that. 50 webinars, 25 master classes. We have coached 60 clients, and our online reach has 15,000 people have looked at our content online. Those for us are big milestones. First of all, the responsibility of creating all that content, number one. But secondly, also, we now realize we cannot stop. So that's the public celebration post. And I remember my coach saw that post and like, to have numbers like you. And, I responded to him, but I'm following in your footsteps. So, his response was, I have to keep running now because if I don't run, you guys will catch up with me. So it became such a fun conversation with my coach because when I started and I was completely insecure, he said to me, I believe in you and I believe in your capacity to not only speak and teach, but to be an effective online MC. And that's how I grew. He gave me every opportunity he could. You didn't need to give me notice. Just give me the drill, give me the intentions, and by the grace of God, I was able to turn it around. That's not me in my strength. That's just what happens when somebody believes in you so completely. Okay? So, tips about how we do the public celebration post. Let's keep it genuine. First of all, maybe I can come into your DMs and first of all celebrate you and say, thank you. You've done really good for us before we go out and say, oh, we have reached so many numbers. Add photos and use short behind the scenes clips. And then tag your customers and clients, of course, with their permission. Don't just go tagging people heavy anyway. What you want to be doing is you want to be giving such value that when you tag them online, they will be happy to be tagged by you. So let me see if there are any questions up until this point. I saw Ikoswali. Can you talk about ineffective delegation? How do I know when I'm doing delegation right? I will borrow a concept that I saw from Vusi Tembekwayo, and I added one element for myself. So he says many of us do not delegate because we do not trust that we can delegate. And 100% I agree with that. So this is what he said. When you want to delegate, number one, you master the task. You, as the leader who's going to delegate, master the task. So you do the task until you know it in, out, back, front, blindfolded. All right? When you master the task, then you document the task. So let's say I have now mastered the task of being here every Tuesday. What does it take? It takes a poster, it takes a caption, it takes study and preparation, an outline, a presentation, and delivery. So I've mastered the task. Now I must come back and document. How do we design our posters? What are our colors? What are our fonts? What is the poster size? I document that. And then how do we do our captions? What's our tone? What are our hashtags? What's the length? What are the platforms? Document that process. How do we design our presentations? Do they match the posters? How do we map that well? Thank you, Celestine. Then we look at how do we do our research? What are the parameters? What is the depth? How much do you know? How much can you be able to ad lib? And then finally, when you come to present, what are the parameters? Lighting, positioning, background, all those things matter. So once I document that, then I can pass that to a team member, okay? When I pass it to a team member, I don't give them a paper document. I train them. So you master, you document, then you train your team. All right. When you train your team, there's a very simple thing we were taught. You watch me, you see me do, then I do, you do, then you do, I watch, and then you do, and I'm out. So I demonstrate first, then I teach you how to do it, then we do it together, and then I let you do it as I watch, and once you're good enough, I step aside. So you master the task, you document the process, you train your team, you evaluate your team. That's the one I have added. You evaluate your team, and then you delegate. They have a document they can reference. They have an evaluation system. They can remember how they were evaluated, and you are on call and on standby in case something doesn't work. That's how you delegate. And I found that is why I have struggled over the years to delegate. Hakuna Mwakenya, there is no msema kweli. What is msema kweli in English? There's no measure. There's no, there's no measure to give people to follow. Oh my goodness. So now I'm being deliberate. Now I'm being deliberate on that's how we delegate. Terms of reference. Thank you. You see, I need you in my class, Audrey. So there were no terms of reference to follow. I hope that helps. I hope that helps us with our question about delegation. All right, so let's continue. Gratitude and growth formula. Okay. At the end of every week, and I already asked us to do this on a personal level, so we can translate this to a weekly level. What are three things you're grateful for in your business at the end of every week? Catalog that with your group, with your team, and then catalog one action you will take next week to build on that progress. So you catalog three things you're grateful for, then what is one action that you will take next week to grow, increase on on that progress, and then I keep saying my belief system is salvation. So for me, prayer is normal. So you pray or you have an affirmation. I am growing one small win at a time. What does that do for your mind? It reminds your mind that every win is valuable. When you are grateful, it embeds in your mind, but it also draws more strength to you and more opportunities. I have found gratitude is like a lamp to a moth. It draws goodness to you. Gratitude also reminds you of how far you've come and it gives you the strength to keep going. So, three things you're grateful for that week, one thing you will do to take that progress forward, and then you do the affirmation in prayer of I am growing one small win at a time. Some of you look at my statuses on WhatsApp and sometimes they look completely strange and random. It's because when I'm processing things, those are the things that stand out. And I learned that this works because it helps me measure my progress, even when results are slow. I'm able to say, like, this week, three things I'm already grateful for is we are supporting a conference and it is going well. Joe is deployed there. I'm ready for tomorrow. We've been able to do the design work. So that part is working. The other thing that's going well is that I have had two happy clients this week. So those are the ones I'm cataloging, right? And I met some new people in the course of the week. I've just been discussing a new project with somebody, and it is exciting to do. And it's pushing us because we're doing a larger audience group. We're doing a very specific program. But now I can see progress, right? Because I said I wanted more partnerships. So I can see that the two events we're doing, the event we're doing this week and the partnership we had a conversation about, I can measure that. So I need to go back and check at my list. I can't remember how many partnerships I wanted to do, but I can go back to my list and say, let's say there were 10. I'm like, 8 to go. You see? That's why we measure small wins. And measurement has given me the confidence and motivation to keep going because if these two have worked, of course, others have worked. And we did two more 2 weeks ago. So you see, we can progressively say we're getting closer to our number. And when I share these things with my team is like, this is working, or this is not working, or this works for so and so. So then the one for whom it doesn't work for, we're like, are you still willing to be part of the team? Do you want to shift? Do you want to shift roles? So we're able to do that conversation. And what it does, it helps us connect better with our customers because people love to see visible growth. You don't want to keep buying from me and you keep seeing that I'm the same person, I'm repeating the same lesson, we're not expanding, we're not doing new topics. See, it would be a matter of concern if 50 webinars later, I'm still saying the same thing in the same way, at the same pace. It would be a matter of concern. Okay. So it's also important because it promotes focus. Once we look at gratitude, it makes us shift our mindsets from stress to, oh my God, it's not working, to it is probably not going as fast as we did, but we are grateful that we have sold X, or we have met Y, or we have done Z. We wanted to do X number of tenders in the year, we have done A. It shows you that we are growing in that capacity. And then if we're looking to do more tenders, we then begin to put together a folder that has the basics of tenders. Every tender needs certificate of registration, tax compliance certificate, license. It needs a profile of the key leaders. So if we have those in a folder somewhere, then it means that even if we receive a tender document 24 hours to, the thing we'll be looking at is the technical proposal and the financial proposal. We will not be looking at the basic company information. I have a friend who has proposals in different formats for NGOs, for Sijui, who. So when they get an RFQ, a request for quotation, or an RFP, request for proposal, they're able to turn it around in 12 to 24 hours. Even if they're given 3-4 days, 2 weeks, they do their 12, 24 hours, submit, move to the next. Why? They have a central repository where all the key information sits. Did they start big? No. But now, my friend who's the team leader, and her team is small, they're 4. She never has to think about proposals. There's somebody who picks them up, puts them together. All she does is proofread, look through the technical proposal, look through the financials, ensure everything is there. She is like towards the end. Why is that important? Now they have strengthened brand credibility because they're consistent, they're authentic, and they're growing visibly. Small wins. She mastered the task, documented the process, trained the teams, consistently evaluates them, and has fully delegated to them. Are there days she finds mistakes? Yes. But it is not the whole document that's wrong. It's probably a paragraph, a page, a calculation. So then she can focus on being strategic. So small wins now help you grow to the place where you are strategic. As the business leader, as the team leader, as the mother in the home, you need to move to strategy. So if you're always the one doing all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the everything, come, we help you figure out how to automate your process. And sometimes it is us to think. I remember when I decided that I'm not going to do laundry anymore, I had to figure out how to generate that income every month. And at that point in time, the economy was a bit wonky, my business was struggling. But the one thing I determined on my list of things to things to do: food, laundry, mama fua. And I actually got to the point where I chose that there are things I wouldn't do just to ensure I had enough money to pay her. Why? Those 3 hours she'll come and do laundry, clean the house, and then come back to iron. I can be looking for clients. I can be deploying a program. I can be, so it freed me to do other things. And that's what I'd like us to be able to do. Think through the little things you can begin to do that will become big wins that will enable you and your team to keep moving forward. So as we conclude, let's remember that small wins create visible progress and invisible momentum. Visible progress, invisible momentum. And we say invisible momentum because as you begin to move, sometimes you don't see like you're moving. I remember somebody challenging us last week to stop looking at how far we still have to go and catalog how far we have come. This also applies to our personal growth. If I choose to be on a healing journey or just getting better, I begin to measure, not that, oh, I'm not yet there, but hey, tumetoka mbali. There's a song by Angela Chibalonza that I really sang last week and I had to explain to my son while I was singing it. And she's talking about how far we have come. And all this way, he has been Ebenezer. All right? So growth is the reward of consistency, not perfection. There is a measure of growth you can attain through perfection, but if you are going to drive your teams to consistent growth, perfection breeds fear. Because, oh, I didn't do it too well, and then we come, you didn't do, you come and ask your team member, so this is the far you can go? Okay, sawa. If this is as far as you could go, how do I help you go further? What are you struggling with? What would you like to support in? When your team tells you what they want support in, then you ensure they have consistent support. Because yes, Sele, growth is the reward of consistency. Another example, if your child is in university, your child is in high school, or the child is in primary school, how do they move from number 100 to the top? Let us get 2 more marks in every paper every time we do an exam. You're not going to tell them, I want you to get 100 marks. It might destroy their capacity to focus. I remember we used that same strategy when my son was in class 8. And we said, every exam you do, we get 2 marks in his most difficult subjects, 2 marks in his favorite, like maths, we're looking for 5 marks. And in 6 or 8 weeks, he went from 272 to about 375. It was just a few marks every week. All right. So every small victory deserves recognition. We shall celebrate, sing, and dance with every small victory. Why? There is a thing about celebrating and gratitude that fuels us from the inside. Hi, Audrey. Why are you saying Asi? What have I said? Is this something very hard? So there is a thing within us that is fueled by celebrating the small wins, and every win is worth celebrating. If you decide you want to wake up at 5 a.m. and your alarm goes off, and instead of snoozing 3 times, you snooze once, progress, clap for yourself. Now we go and remove that snooze once so that when your alarm goes off, you get up. So, what is the thing you need to get up to do? You need to know what you're getting up to do. Are you getting up to read the Bible? Are you getting up to pray? Are you getting up to work out? Are you getting up to go and wake up your child so that they can get ready? What you must be looking to do is ensure that your growth is consistent. Consistent growth is important, and it's step by step. It is step by step. Yes, 100 mark jump in a few weeks is major. It's major, all because of celebrating small wins, eating the elephant one bite at a time. Exactly. And that is what you can be able to do. But first of all, we have to, if you're a Gen Xer and a millennial, we have to undo that perfectionist mindset that we have. We have to understand that growth is one step at a time and then extend grace to our team. They don't think like us, they will never be like us, but they are willing to pursue growth. So here's our assignment for the week. Identify 3 wins this week. That's it. As you go through your week, identify at least 3 wins. I will say at least because as you begin to focus on small wins, you will find there are so many that you have not been seeing. There will be so many. All right. So, do we have questions? We'll take questions at this point before we give our conclusion. Any questions? Any aha moments? I'm open to that. I'd like to hear what your aha moment is. You can put them in the chat. You can um, unmute your mic and speak. Any question or sharing of aha moments? Reflections? Celebrate small wins. Excellent. Celebrate small wins. I was thinking business, but you brought this home where my heart really is. Affection breeds fear. Yes, it does. All right. The thing I like about this space is that everything we do in this space, whether or not we talk about it from a business perspective, you can take the same thing and turn it to your home perspective. All right. I struggle with consistency. So, how do we help you? Let me know how we help you be consistent. So, actually, let me touch on that. Because many of us struggle with consistency, the greatest way to stay consistent, at least I've found, is to be accountable to somebody. How do you do that? I always tell Joe, I need to do this by this date. And because Joe is good with keeping track of things, He comes, umefanya? Have you done? I'm like, no, why? And even as he's nice and kind, there's a way he asks why. You feel like that child with a parent standing over them ready to discipline. So the way to handle inconsistency is set we always say smart goals, but I say set small steps you need to take. And then tell somebody who will hold you accountable and you commit to listen to that person. I'll give an example. Every Sunday we do a study with the 19 to 24s, and then we do a daily devotional, and I write the devotional of the message. Now, every week we have somebody appointed to share the devotion every day. So I tell that person to remind me, oh, you should see them. Then my DMs are definitely, devotion. So like now this week, I sent it out today. It's not that it was not ready. It was ready. I just got caught up in other things. So I sent it out today. So how do I start? I put it together. Then I post the Monday one. I apologize because Monday was yesterday. And then I send it to the person who's sending it out with, I'm sorry, I forgot to send it to you. I have done the Monday one. Even as I am coordinator, because I'm working to teach this team to be consistent and to be engaged, I cannot decide because it's me, the leader, the game plan is different. So knowing that 19 or 20-year-old is going to come and ask me for devotions, you know what it's made me do? As I prepare the lesson or the message, devotions is done nowadays, except a few times when I get really busy. So you break out of inconsistency by setting small goals and asking somebody to hold you to account. Somebody who you trust, not somebody who you will rubbish their opinion. All right. On delegation, I missed something. So, how do we delegate? I'll repeat the process. We master the task, we document the process, you train your team. So, number 3 is train. Number 4 is evaluate. So, you train them and then you test them, you check them whether they're able to do it. And finally, you delegate. So, master, document, train, evaluate, delegate. All right. So, how does one avoid procrastination? Do you know what the root of procrastination is? Fear. It could be the fear of failure, it could be the fear of success, but fear is the root of procrastination. Some of these things, the only way you solve them is by dealing with the root. And very often, procrastination comes from when we were younger, we would do things that people would deal with us in a certain way. And then we would be like, me, I can't. And you throw your hands in the air and you walk away. So then you develop a fear of a repeat of that action. So if somebody told you, you will never accomplish much, then now you develop a fear from that. So I would say look at the root of the fear and use the same method with consistency. When you want to accomplish something, tell somebody who will push you and hold you to account. I have found accountability will help you crack most of the things you're stuck in. But find the root fear that is keeping you bound. There is very likely something that happened when you were younger that now you need to push past. And that's the thing about fear. Fear is subliminal. The root cause of fear is subliminal. You may not, boarding school from standard 3, and yeah, that bred perfectionism. Because imagining when you go to class 3 is class 3 is how old? T-Bags, please message Joe for me that we are still on. Thank you. So class 3 is 8 years old, and you leave home, you're taking care of yourself because pretty much now you need to figure out you're waking up, you're dressing, and all those things. Yeah, that could be the start of it because there was a standard that was probably higher for you than what your parents gave you at home. And then now fear set in because at that age you must have you may have been bullied. So then you're like, see, if I don't do it, somebody else will do it, and you leave it there and it gets done. And then it becomes a habit. So that fear is, oh, you had that is not nice. You should have had a nice matron. So that now becomes an inherent fear. And the other side of procrastination is perfectionism. And perfectionism is a different version of procrastination because you work on things until it's super perfect before you let it out. You hold people to a standard that is unreachable. Now, please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't be excellent. I am saying do not measure people by how well they did that thing if you did not teach them how to do it. Remember the process of delegation? I cannot hold my nanny to account for not using the right amount of fabric softener if I didn't teach her what the right amount is. I can't fault her for not making my bed the way I want it made if I didn't demonstrate. So let me give an example. There is a quality of food I like. So when I used to have full-time nannies, I would spend the first 2 months in the kitchen with them, cooking. Because me, I don't eat bad food. I don't eat bad food. And if it's bad, my son is not going to eat it. So I had to, every nanny I got, I spent 2 months teaching them so that after that, I can put my feet up and I can enjoy my life. But I found that there were other areas where, because of high standards when I was growing up, I come from a very high performing family. There are things that to date, I still have a bit of when I'm doing them. So now I get somebody else to push me past that pain, push me past that fear of failure, and it continues to work. So that's what I'd say. Get to the understand the root of it, and then when you understand the root, um, then you deal with it from the root, and you get accountability. 1 second. There we go. My device is charging. Any other question? Karibu Rose. You're absolutely welcome. And if you want any other question, you feel free to ask or just sidebar. So in conclusion, don't chase big moments, multiply your small wins. Thank you, Dorothy. Very inspiring. And yes, Maureen, we do one-on-one coaching, yes. So don't chase big moments, multiply your small wins. Every step forward counts. Every step counts. And when you put all those steps together, they build the growth you're praying for. They build the growth you're hoping for. They build the stability you're looking for. Not be fooled that you can go to sleep and you can wake up a millionaire. And unfortunately, that's what people try to tell us these days, that you can make millions in your sleep. The way your money works for you in your sleep means you have created it at a point, right? So what are we doing now to build the system? Because me working alone will limit me. I remember listening to a business owner who said, you make your first million on your own, you make your 10 million in your community. So what are we doing to build the community and the system that will support us to be able to replicate our work in ways that will enhance our capacity to earn and enhance our capacity to serve? Because here's the thing, we are not just building so that we can have fat stomachs. No, we are building so that our generations can look back and say, there was a group of people on the continent of Africa who built XYZ and we have ABC because of them. When you look at the continent and the way it is, our founding fathers, for that matter, gave a lot to get us to where we are. None of our nations were built without the shedding of blood, the giving of time, and building of communities. But what has happened in subsequent times, we have gone and we have become tribal, right? And in that place of being tribal, we have lost our strength. We have to get to the place where a South African and a Kenyan can do business together like brothers and sisters, which is why we're in this space. I love it when I see Dorothy and Bernard on the call because I know if I showed up in Cape Town, I have business partners. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's what I want you to look at this continent like, as a place that by me building what I'm building, small steps forward, with Esther building, Bide building, Rose building, Wamboi building, when we come together, we have the building blocks and indeed the prefabs to build faster. That's why we're in this space. We want to see a community. The guest room is ready. I'm coming, Dorothy. Don't dare me when you tell me things like that. Anyway, is we are looking to be able to create spaces that any of us can go to any part of this continent of the world and find a brother or a sister and build. Why do I say that? In the Jewish community, money circulates either 19 or 21 times in the community before it leaves. That's why their mentality is, you can take everything from me, as long as you don't take my brains, I can restart. They celebrate small wins. They draw in community. They build around family. They question, they ask, they are taught. That is why you see us at the Africa MSME Collective, that's why we give up this time. Because we have realized if we keep doing what we're doing, it is not sustainable. At all, at all, at all. So thank you for coming every Tuesday and giving yourself an hour. Today we started a bit late, so we have finished a little bit late. But thank you for coming every Tuesday to learn with us. Because when you come to learn, you push us to grow. They say the student will always be better than the teacher. So we pursue to be consistently growing and learning so that you don't have to worry that you're getting about the quality of knowledge you're getting full knowledge. And what we're working to do is we're hoping to build a community. That is why we always have this section that I am going to do next. Okay? That is why we always ask for feedback.